Welcome to the spring edition of the Novell UNIX Connectivity Product Division Audio Magazine. My name is Jim Jackson, and in this issue we've got some great information for you. On side one, we've got Bob Davis, the Vice President and General Manager of Novell's UNIX Connectivity Products Division. And Bob is going to talk about the Novell UNIX strategy and the exciting new product, the NetWare NFS Gateway, that hit at Interop. And then we're going to slip over to Keith Brown, and Keith is our technical guru on Novell's UNIX products, and Keith and I are going to talk technical on the new NetWare NFS Gateway. And then when you slip over to side two, we're going to have some great customer success stories. These folks have been beta testing the NetWare NFS Gateway, and we're going to see how they're actually using this new product in their environments. So first off is Bob Davis. Bob, thanks for coming down today.
Thank you, Jim. It's always a pleasure to be a part of these audio magazines.
There's been a tremendous amount of information in the press lately about Novell's UNIX push. We've been doing that for a couple of years. And if you could go over Novell's UNIX strategy, that's something that seems to be confusing for our field.
Sure, Jim. I think that the recent purchase or pending purchase of USL by Novell has spurred much interest both in the press and throughout the field of our customers and reseller partners in the area of UNIX and what Novell's intentions are for UNIX. Of course, you made a very important point, and that is our involvement in UNIX has stemmed over several years, beginning at a minimum in 1989 with the purchase of Exelan. Our work with respect to Novell Does UNIX over the last year has been very visible in the field, and so those of us at Novell and our customers and partners that have been watching this would see the purchase of USL as a natural extension of our UNIX strategy. And effectively, that strategy places Novell's UNIX and USL UNIX and the UNIX industry at the core of the enterprise-wide networking market alongside of NetWare. Specifically, they're positioned in an area where Novell's NetWare is responsible and has been for some 10 years now with providing network services to the enterprise network as well as departmental networks. These network services consist of things such as file and print services, communication services, messaging services, and of special note, database services. UNIX, on the other hand, has a rich history of providing vertical applications, such as technical applications, but not limited to those. Some of the most popular hotel and restaurant management software, as well as very popular trading software on Wall Street and banking software in that industry, all run on UNIX. And combined, NetWare and UNIX provide outstanding enterprise solutions, with network services being provided by NetWare and applications and application development being provided by UNIX. In addition to that very important role as an application server, UNIX has found a place on the desktop, providing high-performance desktop support with its 32-bit operating system, multitasking, multi-user capabilities. UNIX has found its way on upwards near 9% of the desktops, with nothing but growth potential ahead of us with respect to desktop Unixes. And that is where Novell has come in by providing a easy-to-use, simple to integrate into a network operating system, such as the UNIXware Personal Edition, and an application server, the UNIXware Application Server, or AS. Both fit into this model, providing their various skills into that network model alongside of NetWare. And that's pretty much an overview of where we see these fitting.
What is the NetWare NFS Gateway, and how does it fit into Novell's UNIX strategy?
Jim, the NetWare NFS Gateway is very exciting for us to announce because it is really representing one of the major pieces that our customers have been asking for. What with the advent of NetWare NFS, people being able to bring UNIX desktops and UNIX environments and TCP/IP environments into the NetWare network and the NetWare environment by virtue of the ability to mount file systems on the UNIX server and so forth. Things that our partners have become very familiar with respect to Novell's UNIX strategy. But something that people have wanted to do is they've wanted to, from the standard NetWare client, a DOS or a Windows user, is what I'm speaking of now, these network clients would have a desire and do have a desire to be able to get access transparently to files stored on an NFS file system in the UNIX environment. They want to do this without any extra training. They want to do this without adding any software to their clients. They want to do this without having to establish IP addresses throughout an otherwise large network of NetWare users. And that's what the NetWare NFS Gateway provides. It gives the ability for a DOS or a Windows user on a NetWare network to map files onto a UNIX file system, connecting to an NFS file system, getting full access to those files, to that file and data structure on that UNIX file system. Again, all transparently. It's a very exciting product, and one which our beta test sites have found very useful. They found it to meet the needs that they've been wanting to have met, and we'll be talking to some of those on the second side, as you mentioned, Jim.
Okay. So with the new NFS Gateway, what it really does is extend the NetWare DOS and Windows users' reach into those NFS environments to where the existing NetWare NFS product that we've been selling for the last couple years really makes NetWare look like Unix and integrates those Unix workstations into the NetWare environment. So we're accomplishing the same task, it's just like we're going down opposite sides of the street.
That's right, Jim. It gives full NFS functionality, in effect, from the client perspective. But it does so with the familiar NetWare networking that these clients are used to using.
Well, this sounds really similar to me as the functionality that LAN Workgroup plays. LAN Workgroup is those TCP/IP services that are loaded on a NetWare server. How is a gateway different from LAN Workgroup?
Well, you're right, Jim, in that there are some similarities. For example, one of the benefits of both products is that they are able to take full advantage of the centralized administration, security, and other features found in the popular NetWare network operating system. Where they're different, however, is that in the case of the LAN Workgroup, each of the clients on the network is able to load the full TCP/IP stack. Their view of the network is as a TCP/IP network in addition to the IPX network. Their ability to run applications includes not only NFS applications, but the entire TCP/IP application suite. So for those users that, for example, would like to run Unix applications, again pointing to the Unix and NetWare strategy, they can do so right from their client and be a full citizen on a TCP/IP network at the same time as an IPX network. On the other hand, the NFS Gateway provides benefits such as the transparent file system access in terms of the NFS file system. It does not provide the full TCP/IP application base, but for those users that are simply interested in data and file access, it's perfect. It also eliminates the need to have IP address administration on each of the clients, which, if you're not going to be taking full advantage of the TCP applications, is something that you would probably rather not have to put up with. If, in fact, you do want the TCP/IP applications, it's worth the effort. And in so doing, in providing both the NFS Gateway and the LAN Workgroup, we're able to provide solutions that span the interest and the desires of our customers. Those that simply want file access, or those that want the full TCP/IP rights and privileges that might be found therein. So both products together provide a very nice companion and a nice suite of choices for our users.
So it really kind of boils down to the NFS Gateway provides NFS services only for Windows and DOS clients, and it's very, very easy to use, where the LAN Workgroups has a very high level of TCP/IP services involved with it. It may be a little bit more complex, but it has more services and it gives you more to do versus just having NFS mounts.
That's correct, Jim.
Okay. Very good. Well, let's talk a little bit about pricing and stratification of the NFS Gateway. The NFS Gateway has to go on a 311 server, just like NetWare NFS, but it's user stratified this time. Tell me a little bit about this stratification and how that's going to match NetWare.
Well, Jim, we've chosen to stratify the product along the exact same lines that NetWare is stratified today. So we'll have the 5, the 10, the 20, the 50, the 100, and the 250 user versions. So that'll be very simple for people to keep in mind in terms of matching the stratified number of users to the needs of the group. And of course, you don't necessarily have to provide the full number of users that match the operating system stratification. So for example, if I have a 100 user version of NetWare, I could perhaps put on a 20 user version of the NFS Gateway, giving 20 of my users access to the NFS file system. So it's a very nice, flexible solution. From a pricing perspective, the pricing that we've chosen is identical to that of the LAN Workgroup product. So the per user seat drops as low as $50 a user to get this functionality we've been describing in the 250 user version.
So an exciting new product, some very easy stratification to remember and easy pricing. And this product we feel is really going to really help propel Novell into this gigantic UNIX market that's going to happen this year.
That's right, Jim. And if the feedback from our beta sites is any indication, it's matching right on the needs as well as the implementation that our customers have been asking for.
And as always, these products are available. They will be available in April. It will be available under our software evaluation program for those of you out in our Novell offices and our valued gold and platinum and UNIX master resellers. You can call our 800-772-UNIX number, and we can go ahead and set you up with an evaluation copy for your customer. And Bob, the last thing I'd like to cover with you today before we start talking technical with Keith here is about some of the upcoming events that's happening for 1993. I know we've got a new Novell Does UNIX World Tour planned. Tell me a little bit about some of the ways that we're going to get the information out to the field this year.
That's right, Jim. And of course, we're going to be very busy as we head into the main stretch of the year in the second and third quarters. Two of those events, one of which you mentioned is the Novell Does UNIX World Tour. The second is the upcoming Interop Trade Show, both of which have always been and will continue to be important events for us. Novell Does UNIX was extremely successful in getting the word out that Novell indeed does UNIX, in educating our resellers and educating our authorized education centers. So we've been very successful with that, and we're going to continue getting the word out. We're going to take it international. So the Novell Does UNIX and the promotions that accompany the Novell Does UNIX program will all come together to further entice everyone to get involved in the Novell Does UNIX products, the Novell's UNIX products, as well as other products that Novell has to offer, and educate and continue to bring the word to all levels of our distribution and customer partners so that everyone indeed can choose solutions that meet the needs they have. And in the upcoming Interop Trade Show, among other things, there will be the announcement of this product, the NetWare NFS Gateway. But another point that we're going to be focusing on at the Interop Trade Show is the new upcoming product, NetWare over IP or NetWare IP. We're going to be doing non-disclosures there. In fact, by the time you're hearing this tape, those will have been done and they will have been very successful. I think that the NetWare over IP is a very exciting product, one that's going to beta in early February and will be released in the fall, providing full NetWare functionality over a TCP/IP backbone without the limitations in terms of scalability that the tunneling solution provides to our users today.
Now, the real hardcore information on NetWare IP is still all non-disclosure. Is that correct?
That is correct, Jim. And up till now, Keith Brown has been leading the charge of educating and providing that degree of customer non-disclosure. We have recently opened up some additional channels for this information, including our area technical specialists. That would be Steve Jarris in the southeast, John Dooley in the northeast, Kirk Fallbacher in the central, and Dave Gagnon in the west coast. So those individuals are all ready, willing, and able to provide such a non-disclosure, and the national marketing managers are also coming up to speed. So contacting one of those resources will get you plugged in right now with the information about that product.
All right, very good. Bob, thank you very much for coming down today. And with the NetWare NFS Gateway, we think we've got a real exciting product for our Novell offices and all of our field to continue to be extremely successful as Novell Does UNIX.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. Welcome to the second segment of Side 1. With me is Keith Brown, and Keith and I are going to talk technical about the NFS Gateway. Keith, thanks for coming down today.
Cheers, Jim.
So, Keith, the NFS Gateway is kind of a departure from the NetWare NFS that we've known over the last couple of years. Give us some background for the Gateway and how it compares to the existing NetWare NFS product.
Well, NetWare NFS, which we've been shipping now for 2 years, is an NFS server implementation. It allows UNIX machines to mount NetWare volumes and NetWare file systems and access them just as though they were UNIX file systems which were available locally on those UNIX machines. The new NetWare NFS Gateway is exactly the inverse of that. What the NFS Gateway does is mount UNIX or NFS file systems and make them available at the NetWare server as virtual NetWare volumes to DOS and Windows clients. So here, whereas before you had UNIX users accessing NetWare server-based files, with the NFS Gateway you now have DOS and Windows-based NetWare users accessing Unix-based files and directories. So it's kind of like the other way around to the way we've been doing things with NetWare NFS.
Okay, so as a NetWare user, how am I going to see those NFS volumes? What am I going to have to do differently to access that information?
Nothing at all. Unix and NFS-based security and file system semantics are different from NetWare file system semantics. Unix and NFS security is based on 3 sets of attributes: the ability to read files, the ability to write files, and also the ability to execute files as programs for 3 different classes of user, to wit, the owner of a file, the group owner of a file, and everybody else in the world. NetWare has a much richer set of security semantics than Unix and NFS. NetWare is capable of keeping trustee rights right the way down to individual user granularity on each and every file on the directory. What the NFS Gateway does is it layers the NetWare security semantics on top of the Unix and NFS security semantics. So when NetWare users access the files, the virtual volumes that the NetWare NFS Gateway creates by mounting in the Unix NFS file systems, they don't see any differences from the regular volumes that are sitting on the hard disks of a NetWare 3.1.1 server. The NetWare system administrator can create trustee rights for the different files and directories that are on the volume, just as they would create trustee rights for the files and directories on regular NetWare volumes, providing much better access control than is available for Unix and NFS file systems. So that from the user perspective, they have to learn absolutely nothing new whatsoever. They just carry on mapping drives to the new volumes and accessing the files there. They can't even tell that they're Unix and NFS files that they're accessing.
So the gateway allows me to transparently extend my file system into those NFS environments. What about those other components that were in NetWare NFS? Are they in the gateway, the bidirectional print gateway portion of NetWare NFS, and the FTP daemon and X console? Are those in the new product?
One of them is. We included the X console portion of NetWare NFS. If you remember, what X console does is it allows users of Unix systems and X Windows environments to connect to a NetWare server and become the console of the NetWare server in a window. This enables them to manage NetWare 3.1.1 servers, load and unload NLMs, bind protocols to interfaces, unbind protocols from interfaces, without physically leaving their Unix and X Windows environments, and we actually walk into the NetWare server to do this. However, we have now enhanced our X console NLM, as it's called, to include support for dumb terminals, so specifically DEC VT100, VT200, and VT220 terminals. Now, if you're a Unix user, you can connect to a NetWare 3.1.1 server. If you're sitting at a dumb terminal, you can connect to a NetWare 3.1.1 server, and the server will replicate the server's console using DEC VT100 graphics. So now you don't have to have an X window terminal or be sitting at a workstation X window environment like you did before. You can manage NetWare now from both that environment and, if you're a Unix user, using a traditional DEC VT100 style terminal.
That's a valuable enhancement to the X console.
It is indeed, yes. We've had a lot of requests for it. It allows people who use the more traditional style of Unix system, i.e. the multi-user mini-computer system that has dumb terminals, to manage NetWare, whereas before, on the whole, you had to be actually sitting at one of the newer style of desktop Unix systems, such as a Sun workstation, or indeed an X terminal connected to some kind of bigger system.
Okay. Now, going back to the NFS Gateway, does it run on all versions of NetWare, or what versions of NetWare does it run on?
No, specifically this version of the NFS Gateway, our first release, which is version 1.1, is designed for the NetWare version 3.11 version of the NetWare operating system. It is in our plans to support NetWare 4.0 in a coming release very soon after the NetWare 3.1 support, but our goal was to satisfy the requirements of the huge install base we have of NetWare 3.1.1 customers. NetWare 4.0, by the time you hear this, will probably only have just started shipping, so it will take a while for the install base to build up. But we do want to provide this functionality to our new customers for 4.0 as well.
Now, one of the other caveats of using the NetWare NFS Gateway is that you have to use the NetWare NFS 1.2b product that was announced at NetWorld in Boston earlier in 1993. Tell me a little bit about NetWare NFS 1.2b and why that's required for the Gateway.
Well, NetWare NFS 1.2b was really something of a maintenance release over NetWare NFS version 1.2a. What we did was we restructured it internally to support better modularity and also to support stratification. The reason you need NetWare NFS 1.2b with the NetWare NFS Gateway is due to the new stratification that we've introduced that basically stratifies that product in terms of the number of users that can actually access the gateway volumes. So yes, if you are going to use the NetWare NFS Gateway on the same server that you want to use the NetWare NFS traditional product, the one that gives you the server capabilities, then you need the 1.2b version, which is available as a free upgrade by calling a phone number.
That 1-800-UPDATE-1 is one way you can get it, or you can refer to the worldwide NetWare NFS upgrade policy, and that's available at all of the Novell offices.
Another thing worth mentioning is that you need the NFS version 1.2b version for running, if you plan to run LAN Workgroup, which is another new TCP/IP product from Novell.
Yeah, and I believe also the multi-protocol router 2.0 also requires the NetWare NFS 1.2b.
That's correct.
Now, there's a couple other new kind of innovative things that we haven't been used to in the NetWare environment before with the NFS Gateway. These are going to become really household words when people get up to speed on NetWare 4.0. But we've actually used DNS and NIS in the NFS Gateway. Could you explain to me what those acronyms are and what this really means and how we utilize those in the product?
Sure. The NetWare NFS Gateway contains our first crack at integrating NetWare with UNIX directory services. NIS, which is the Network Information Service, it used to be called Yellow Pages from Sun, is a way of centrally storing information on a Unix network that can be accessed from different Unix hosts around the network. It's normally used, in fact, to store configuration information and administrative information. So, for example, using NIS, you can create a Unix NIS server that stores all of the information on Unix user accounts. And then at that central location, you can create user accounts and delete user accounts, and all the different Unix systems that are using that NIS server will be able to query that user account information, so you don't have to create the accounts all over the network on every single different Unix host. What we've done with the NetWare NFS Gateway is we've enabled it to query that NIS information automatically. For its normal operation, you have to map users of the NetWare server to users of the Unix NFS environment, and that information is stored in NIS. What we've done is enable the NFS Gateway to automatically fetch the information about Unix users and present you in an administration NLM with a very simple menu for doing that mapping between NetWare users and Unix users. So whereas before with the traditional NetWare NFS product, you had to punch in information about Unix UIDs, which were numeric and not very easy to remember, now the NFS Gateway is capable of automatically utilizing NIS, fetching Unix user account information, and letting you pick and choose from menus on which user of the NetWare environment is to be mapped or made equivalent to which user in the Unix environment. In addition to that, there is the domain name service, which allows you to centralize where you place information about what host names map to which TCP/IP addresses. The NFS Gateway contains both a DNS server and a DNS client implementation, which means it can not only go out to existing DNS servers and query them with regard to which TCP/IP addresses belong to which host, but also we've included a DNS server itself, so we can actually be the repository of that information and serve DNS domains with IP address to TCP/IP host name mappings.
So this is as a network administrator, this is going to make my life much, much easier that I don't have to rekey this information.
Exactly. With NetWare NFS, you actually had to go to the Unix system, look at the etc. password file, write down all the usernames, write down all the numbers, the UIDs that corresponded to each of those usernames, and manually punch them into a table in the NetWare NFS software in order to do these mappings between NetWare users and Unix users. Now, with the NFS Gateway and its support for the Unix directory services like NIS, no longer do you have to do that. The Gateway will automatically get that information for you out of the Unix environment, present you with simple menus which allow you to map the users of the different environments and make them equivalent.
So how does it get that? You had mentioned fetch. What type of technical term is fetch? How do I get that information off that NIS server?
Okay, well, the gateway makes an NIS request. We have an administrative NLM called NFS Con, which you run at the server. And when you do mappings of users from one environment to another, it will present you literally with a menu with your NetWare users down one side of the screen, and it will then do fetches from the NIS server that might be running on an existing UNIX system and put the users down the right-hand side of the screen. And to create mappings between users of the two environments, you just select a NetWare user, punch return, and then automatically you can select a user off of the other environment and put it into the screen. So it's all there for you.
Doesn't get much easier than that.
Right.
All right, very good. Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming down today. And I know you've been working very, very hard on a NetWare NFS Gateway in-depth. And a lot of the things that we've talked about today is available in your in-depth, and that document is available through our Novell offices and the Novell Literature channel. Is that correct?
That's right. By the time you hear this, there will be a NetWare NFS Gateway in-depth, just as there is an in-depth for NetWare NFS, plus, of course, all the other supporting collaterals that we produce for our products.
So as you can tell, we've got some outstanding products with the NetWare NFS Gateway. We've got some great information that can help you become more technical. Michael Bryant, who is the new product marketing manager for NetWare NFS and FlexIP, has completed the FlexIP, NetWare NFS, and NFS Gateway sales guide. They're all together in one guide for you, along with all the data sheets. And the best way to learn about all of our UNIX strategy and the new products is to hit one of the Novell Does UNIX World Tour seminars that's coming to a Novell office near you this summer. So please make sure you attend one of those. You can also hit your Novell office. As Bob mentioned, we have the area technical specialist out there to assist you. And also the Novell numbers, the 800-772 UNIX number. And for all of you wheeling down those highways and byways, please stick around for side two. We've got two great customer success stories. These folks have been using the NetWare NFS Gateway. First up is going to be Rich Comeau from Buzzwords International. And then we're going to go to the beautiful campus of Oregon State University to talk to Bruce Mauler, who is with the College of Oceanography. Please hang on for side two. Once again, this is Jim Jackson. Welcome back to side two. This is Jim Jackson, and we've got some great customer success stories for you. First up is Rich Comeau, and Rich is with a company called Buzzwords International, located in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And Rich is going to talk to us about their beta testing of the NFS Gateway. Rich, this is Jim Jackson from Novell.
Morning, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing real good. How are things back in Missouri today?
Very busy these days.
Good. Rich told you I'd be giving you a call to talk to you a little bit about the NetWare NFS Gateway. Do you have a couple minutes this morning?
As always.
Very good. Rich, what is Buzzwords International and what do you do with the company?
Well, Buzzwords International is a software manufacturer. We manufacture packages included with everything from DBase 4 to editors under the Cray. So we've been in many platforms.
So you do a lot of work on Unix then?
Quite a bit of Unix work, yes.
Okay, so how are you using Unix and how are you using your NetWare? How are those two environments helping you solve your business solution creating software applications?
Well, NetWare, of course, is our common server architecture. We would choose no other. However, when you add Unix into that, the common question comes of interconnecting all of that. And that's really where we feel your NFS product has come to play.
Now, you've been using NetWare NFS, the product's been shipping for the last couple years that makes your NetWare server looks like Unix to those Unix users that you have out there. Is that correct?
That's correct, actually.
Okay, so how have you been using that? What have you been doing? Have you been using the print gateway and the file sharing?
The print gateway, yes, quite a bit. The file sharing has been the most important aspect. just from the point of not having to do sneakernet anymore. We basically, since we are a software manufacturer, we try to maintain the same source code from our Unix, DOS, or Windows operations. So with the NFS server, we can have a common source code that all our architectures can go on, compile, link, and execute, just maintaining basic project management.
So you're using the NetWare server as your centralized file server for all of your source code for your applications that you're building, and so you just have one source code tree.
That's exactly correct.
Okay. Now, so with the NetWare NFS, you're integrating those Unix workstations so they all save files on the NetWare server. How is this different from how you're using and how you've been beta testing the new NetWare NFS Gateway?
Well, the Gateway, of course, adds a degree of quality and enhancement to the NFS. Where that really comes around is, yes, we can use the server for a common compile, link, and go. But as in any shop, there are days when you could use a little more space, or the server traffic is so heavy that you want to put those compiles on another box. We quite often use our RS6000 or our Sun architectures, or even our Data General Avions, putting those source codes there, and actually then even having DOS workstations compile, linking, and going, using the hard disk architectures on those other Unix platforms.
Okay, so how does the gateway work? How do you have the gateway set up in your environment?
Well, it's a very simple process, quite honestly. It's just a matter of mapping in the drive. That simplicity, quite honestly, leads to a very easy learning curve for, I should say, non-Unix-oriented personnel.
So for your NetWare users out there, they really have no idea that that's an NFS volume on your Sun machine or your RS6000 out there.
Well, that's exactly right. It looks no different than a normal EPROM to them.
So what drive do you have? What drive do you have it designated as?
Well, actually, we actually set up different drive letters. For instance, our X drive might be our RS6000. Our W drive may be the new UNIXware, which we were very, very pleased with. SCO is on another drive letter, and so on. It really goes very simple.
Okay, in the beginning of this conversation, you said that there comes times when you need to have space. What do you mean by that? What do you mean need to have space?
Well, as in any shop, you always have more software packages around than you're using that very moment. And yes, you can PK zip them and things like that, but there never comes to a time that you need additional space. We have several times when we needed a little more space on the server because of doing a very large product, let's say for the IRS or McDonnell Douglas. Our servers get quite overloaded with software. We quite often migrate some of that software easily to the 6000 or the Sun, where there may be, another 500, 600 megabytes laying around open access.
And so you're just being able to really leverage to the best degree possible all of those hard disk storage that you have out there. This way it allows you to utilize all of those spare bytes of hard disks that you have for your business.
Right, that's just basically maximum use of hardware, and as we all know, Unix hardware is not always as inexpensive as DOS, and it just takes more use of the resources we have.
Okay, so do you see the NFS Gateway and the regular NetWare NFS product still playing a role in your computing business today? Are you still going to use both of those products?
Oh, there's no question. And it goes beyond just these capabilities. We've been a test facility for Ashton Tate since DBase 2 used to be called Vulkan. We also run DBase on the 6000s, our Suns. The Gateway has enabled us to use common database files on any of these boxes and accessing them from DOS workstations as across from the Sun. Common use of information, more than just copying, is a very, very added feature.
Okay, so you said that this was pretty easy to install as an administrator. What did it really take for you to get this up and running?
10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
It was very simple, very simple.
Okay. And so did you get to take a look at the manual at all and see how that was?
That's another nice feature. The documentation, as is the newer versions of NFS, the documentation always grows. I think it's much more concise. It's just easier to understand. It's, as you put it earlier, you have DOS NetWare customers who are not necessarily Unix-oriented. Definitely those style of personnel could still install the Gateway.
Okay. So it does make it easy for those users to use, and it is very easy to install. That makes our engineering team very happy when you say that. I'll pass that along.
One other area we didn't cover, and that was in backing up of software. We use a common backup software here that we're very pleased with, and it's typically running on our DOS workstations. Now, because our software migrates from platform to platform, we try to keep our file names as a typical 8 characters plus a 3-character extension. Our DOS boxes now can back up those files on our Suns or R6000 type platforms using very inexpensive DOS backup tape drives. It just cuts the overhead of buying more backup systems.
Oh, and being able to back up everything from one console has got to be very convenient also.
Oh, there's that question. It just solves a lot of headaches.
And so when you back that up, you're backing even those long Unix file names. You're still backing those up as a conventional DOS 8.3 format then.
Well, yeah. Now, all our internal source code is these typical 8.3.
Okay.
The Unix file names, when we go into those, what we do there is we actually, like the system directories and such, we actually back those up once, I shouldn't say this, but once every 2 weeks, we back up the main Unix architecture itself. Our normal material that's manipulated every day is backed up every evening automatically.
Okay. Well, that's good. I hadn't heard about the backup, so I'm very interested. I think our field people will be interested to hear about that also. So, Rich, I'm going to let you get back to it. It sounds like you're really busy back there, and I truly appreciate your time today. And as always, if there's anything we can do for you, Rich, we're here for you.
We appreciate you being responsive. Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
All right, next up is Bruce Mauler from Oregon State University. Hang on for just one moment. Bruce, this is Jim Jackson from Novell.
Jim, how are you this morning?
I'm doing real good. Told you I'd be giving you a call. We're doing one of our audio tapes, and since you've been one of the real hardcore beta testers for the NetWare NFS Gateway, wanted to call and talk to you a little bit so we can relay some information onto our field. Do you have a couple minutes this morning?
Oh, sure.
Very good. Bruce, who are you and what are you doing up there at the College of Oceanography?
I'm a technology assessor and systems integrator. And what we do at our college is actually two facets. One is that we do a lot of environmental research involved with atmospheric and also oceanic research. And the second part is, of course, we're part of academia, and so we have a graduate level program here for graduate studies at the university. So I'm involved in evaluating new computing technology as it becomes available and trying to decide whether it's right for our environment. And then once we've determined that something is appropriate for our environment, then that's where the systems integration part of my job comes into being, in that we then roll the appropriate technology into our environment.
Now, I know you've got a global warming study that you're working on with the U.S. government. I'm assuming since you're taking all that real-time data off of those satellites that you're using extremely large data sets, and UNIX must be in there somewhere to help process this large volume of information that you're working with.
Yes. We actually have a supercomputer right now. We're expecting another to arrive shortly in the next couple of months to process that data. And a lot of the processing will be involved with modeling and data visualization. And our goal is to move the models that we've created on the supercomputer and our other visualization platforms, typically Unix-based, to be able to move those visualizations down to the desktop, and also the data that's been processed down to our desktop machines so they can be used in productivity applications.
So when you say move to your desktops, what desktops? Are those Unix desktops?
No, typically we're talking about high-end Intel-based PCs, DOS or Windows-based, and also Macintoshes. Okay,
but I see a fundamental problem there. If all of these things are on Unix supercomputers and you have DOS desktops, how are you going to get the information, or how are you getting the information back and forth today?
Well, now it's not very seamless, and there are some inherent problems. One is you basically have an extra step or steps in moving the data down to your DOS workstation. So you have to actually run an application to move the data down. And of course, with that comes with its own set of inherent problems. The second thing is, what if you have very large data sets? You can't move them even if you can FTP them, say, to a file server or Novell server. You don't have enough space on your local server to put those data sets. And they may be there for a while. I mean, some of the research projects may run 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years. So the nice thing, and what we were looking for, is some way to access the data. So the data is processed and it's left on its either the supercomputers, hard drives, or on the other UNIX machines that we're doing processing on, and be able to access that data from our desktop machine.
So is that where the NFS Gateway comes into play for you?
Yes, we've been waiting for this process, and it's wonderful. From our first day of getting the gateway up and running, I think we spent all of about an hour getting it up and running. So it was very easy to install, and we were able to access data right away.
Okay, so
Very impressed with this product.
So in your own words, what is the NFS Gateway? What is the functionality that it provides you and your users out there?
The NFS Gateway provides us seamless access to our large data sets and our visualizations that will be coming off of our supercomputer without this inherent problem of trying to move between heterogeneous computing environments. It's seamless. From a Windows workstation or a DOS workstation, I simply map a drive to UNIX disk space, and I see all of the files there just as I would from DOS or from Windows. So in the file manager in Windows, I just see another drive. It's just an extension of our Novell environment, which of course is just an extension of the DOS environment, Windows environment.
Okay.
So,
one of the concerns that a lot of people have is when you start going between these two environments, especially through some sort of gateway configuration, that you take a real big performance hit. Have you looked at the performance at all, and can you tell us what you're experiencing as far as speed of the NFS Gateway?
I think the speed of the NFS Gateway, it far surpassed our expectations of what we thought we would get for performance. It's actually very closely approaches our normal access of our Novell file server. So moving files back and forth, even if or accessing files, we notice very little difference between the mounted UNIX volume and a normal Novell volume.
Okay, so as a NetWare user, as your NetWare users out there, you have just designated a drive to them, and they see it as just a regular drive designation, but that's really on one of your supercomputers on an NFS volume.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you say that you're using large files, how big of files are these?
Oh, geez, some of our data sets, we're talking about 600 megabytes and up. So our projections with a NASA project we're working on is we'll be bringing in 1 terabyte of data a day that we need to access. So that's kind of what we're looking at in volume size.
That's incredible. That's a very, very huge data set you're working with. Now, you have been using the regular NetWare NFS that supplies that makes a NetWare 311 server look like UNIX. You're still going to be using that in your environment today, even though the NetWare NFS Gateway is available, and you're using that also?
Yes, we do have some researchers here that do a lot of their work on, say, X stations or UNIX workstations, and they may have assistants that are using desktop PCs, and so maybe they'll have their assistants work on a project and put data out on our Novell server, and then they are able to mount that disk space from the UNIX side. So there's still a need for that, and we also still need the printing facilities that are available with the normal NFS.
Okay, so you see both of these products really helping you bring together those historically isolated environments of NetWare and UNIX.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is, again, what I said is we've been waiting for these products, and they're just wonderful. I mean, now it gives us a very seamless environment for our computing. Opens up a whole new realm of possibilities what we can do with research.
Now, you had talked about the install, that was fairly easy. Can you tell me about that a little bit and what you experienced actually installing the NetWare NFS Gateway on your NetWare 311 server?
Sure. We have another person here that manages most of our UNIX machines within the college. And so installing the NFS Gateway, you're asked a number of questions, where you can get domain name service, your IP address, subnet mask, things like that. And if you have all that information, there are also worksheets that come with that. And so we had filled out all the worksheets. And then once you have all that information in place, it's really just a matter of entering the information and going from there. And so again, with a little bit of preparation, the install was less than an hour. We had it up and running.
Now, you said
here, it would be nothing to add other drives. I mean, that process would probably take 10 minutes.
Okay, now you had mentioned worksheets. Where did you find the worksheets at?
Well, they were in the manual that came along with the NFS Gateway.
Okay.
And the manual was excellent. In the back of the manual, there are appendices on various Unix platforms. I think there were about a dozen different Unix platforms that gives you the Unix side of what you need to do to use the Gateway product with your Unix host. So, yeah, that came with the manual. And it was great for beta product. I mean, this was like production documentation. So we were, again, very impressed.
That always frightens us when you give us a call and say, hey, this is good. Would you mind if we roll this beta into a production environment? Always makes us a little bit skittish, Bruce. All right. Well, Bruce, thank you so much for your time today. I'm going to let you get back there. We want to make sure that we don't get that global warming out of control. And I truly appreciate your time today. And as always, Bruce, if there's anything we can do for you, we're here.
Great. Thanks, Jim, for your time, too.
You bet. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Thank you once again for joining us for this issue of the Novell Unix Connectivity Product Division Audio Magazine. If you have any questions, please make sure that you get a hold of your appropriate Novell office or give us a call here. Your area technical specialist can be of assistance to you. We just want to make sure that you have all the information so we can get these great products out to those customers. Thank you once again. This is Jim Jackson from Novell.